I am 76 years old. Even saying that out loud, I still feel a deep sense of shame, because for most of my life I was the easy one. By easy, I mean the woman who never spoke up to avoid conflict, who tried to meet everyone's needs, who gave up her own comfort so everyone else could be comfortable. When I was 30, I had 2 small children. One never wanted to leave my side. The other kept calling, "Mommy." Our house was always messy, but I fought to keep it looking tidy, because that's what I'd been taught since childhood. You'll keep your home in order. My mother said it with love, but it took me years to understand something. It sounded caring, yet it sat on me like a burden for years. One Sunday, we were going to have a family meal. You know the kind. It starts with, "Let's all do it together," and somehow ends with one person doing everything. I got up early. I tied my hair back tight. I put a pot on the stove. I sautéed onions. My eyes watered and I told myself it's just the onions. The kids were yelling. I still had to dust the living room and the sheets needed ironing. That day it felt like I was falling apart, not the house. Around noon I remember my hands shaking. The knife felt heavy, like my arm didn't belong to me. I was so tired I wanted to stop, pull up a chair and rest, but I couldn't. A voice in my head said, "You can't sit down before the guests arrive. That would be rude." Whoever taught me that? God, whoever taught me that? I called out to my husband from the kitchen. I asked him to help. Without even looking at me, he brushed me off and said, "You can handle it." It didn't hit me like a slap at first, because it sounded like a compliment. "You can handle it" meant, "You're strong." So I smiled and said, "Okay." But deep down, another voice said, "I'm human too. I get tired too." And right then, I realized something. As long as I handled it, everyone stayed comfortable. As long as I did everything, no one reached in to help. And unless I set boundaries, no one would set them for me. I wish I could have said this at 30. I don't want help. I want this house to be shared, because help makes it sound like the work is mine and everyone else is just assisting. But this home belongs to all of us. Sharing the load is my right. The moment I sat down at the table, that's when something inside me went quiet. The doorbell rang. My hands were wet, so I ran to dry them. Our guests had arrived. I put on a huge smile. Inside I was praying, please don't let anything be missing. Everyone came in, shoes, coats, bags. The house suddenly felt packed, and in the middle of that crowd, I did what I always did. I made room for everyone, but I didn't make room for myself. When I sat down at the table, my legs ached. You know that burning in your knees after you've been on your feet too long? Like that. But the second I sat, I had to get up again. Someone's water ran out. Someone needed bread. The kids dropped food on the floor. I got up again. Did anyone say, "Sit down, Mom"? Yes, but it was only words, because everyone knew. If I didn't get up, no one else would. Someone said, "Well done." Someone laughed and said, "You're a pro at this." Normally you'd feel proud, right? But that day I didn't. It was like they weren't praising me. They were stamping my role. When they said, "That's just you," I felt even more trapped inside it. Then my mother-in-law tasted the soup and said, "It could use a little more salt." Look, she wasn't mean. She wasn't rude. She probably didn't even notice what she was doing. But inside me, something flared, so hot I thought my face was burning, because my whole day, all my effort, all my exhaustion, got reduced to one tiny comment about salt. Still, I smiled. "I'll pay more attention next time," I said. That's what I'd done for years. Instead of talking about how tired I was, I talked about the soup. Instead of talking about how hurt I felt, I talked about what was missing on the table. While my husband sat in the living room, he said, "When she sets her mind to something, she does everything." Everyone laughed. I laughed too. But that laughter left a bitter taste in me, because what they called the way she is wasn't really my choice anymore. I felt like I had to be that way. Like if I wasn't, the whole house would fall apart. The meal ended, tea came out, the women went to the kitchen, the men went to the living room, and I went straight to the kitchen too, automatically, without thinking, plates piled up by the sink. I turned on the water and started washing. Then I stopped, plate in hand, water running. I whispered to myself, "I haven't sat down once today." They told me to rest, sure, but no one actually came in to help, because for years I'd said, "I'll do it." People left it to me because I always did it. And worse than that, I kept doing it without even thinking. When everyone left that night, I sat alone in the kitchen. When the house finally went quiet, the voice inside me got louder. And, for the first time, I thought, if I keep living like this, I'm going to wear myself out. I got into bed, but I couldn't sleep. I was tired, yes, but it was the resentment inside me that kept me awake. That's when I realized. I thought staying silent would prevent a fight, but staying silent just pushed the fight inside me. Before sunrise, I got up again. The house was completely still. I could hear the children breathing in their sleep. I went to the living room and didn't turn on the light. Dim street light filtered through the curtain. I sat on the edge of the couch and rested my hands on my knees. In that moment, I felt so alone. There were people in the house, but inside me there was emptiness. It felt like there were two voices inside me. One said, "You're exaggerating. Everyone does this. A woman can handle it." The other spoke calmly. "What about you? Where are you in all of this?" That question made me cry, because for years I hadn't asked myself, where am I? I was always focused on someone else, my children's problems, my husband's work, my mother's feelings, my mother-in-law's expectations. All of that lived in my head. But me, I wasn't there. I didn't make some grand decision that day. I'm not built that way. But for the first time I saw the truth. I had been shrinking myself to be a good woman, and I had called that love. Then we started talking about the next gathering, and the same thing happened again. The phone rang and they said, "Let's meet at your place on Sunday." And in my head a list popped open like computer tabs: cooking, dishes, cleaning, laundry. I was about to say okay, but this time I swallowed hard, because I knew if I said yes, it would all happen again. I'd be on my feet all day, smiling, and no one would notice. And at night, I'd cry inside all over again. In that moment, I wished the 30-year-old me could have said this. I can't do all of this alone. If we're getting together, we need to share the work. Otherwise, we shouldn't plan it this way. It's a simple sentence, but I couldn't say it because my mind raced with fear. It would be rude. What will they say? They'll be hurt. They'll say you've changed. It felt like setting a boundary would look like I loved them less, like they wouldn't love me if I drew a line. Back then I couldn't say no. I thought no would make me a bad person, because what we were taught as a good woman was often just a woman who sacrifices herself, and I felt like I was born into that role. But I realized this: my problem wasn't that people asked for things, People will ask. My problem was my automatic yes, me putting myself second, me living like I was proud to say, I'll handle it, and then breaking inside. That day, for the first time, I thought, setting boundaries isn't fighting. It's taking yourself seriously. It's showing up as yourself, without picking a fight. I understood this clearly. The more you stay silent, the more you disappear. I had been making myself small for years. Sitting on that couch that morning, I finally admitted it. It hurt, but it also felt like the first knot inside me had started to loosen. Even after that knot loosened, not everything fell into place. Some things became impossible to ignore. I wasn't only physically exhausted, I was emotionally worn down too. People thought I was strong, but I wasn't strong. I just had to be. One day, as I climbed the stairs, my knees nearly gave out. I got scared, and it wasn't only the fear of falling. A sentence flashed through my mind. No one will catch me. That sentence brought me back to myself, because for years I'd been holding everyone else up. The kids, the house, the routine, the relationships. But who was holding me? I told myself, if I keep going like this, one day I really will fall. That evening, when my husband came home, I was leaning against the kitchen counter. He looked at my face and knew something was wrong. Is something wrong? He asked. Normally I would have said, nothing. Nothing was my signature. But that day my throat tightened, and I still said it. Yes, I'm tired. Even that sentence was hard for me, because being tired felt like weakness. Women get tired, but don't say it. Women cry, but try not to show it. Women get hurt, but swallow it. I was like that too. My husband didn't speak at first. Then he said, everyone gets tired. And that word, everyone, cut me, because it made my feelings sound ordinary, like they didn't matter. That day, for the first time, I didn't hide behind everyone. I said calmly, I'm not everyone. I can't keep going like this. My voice trembled, but my words didn't, because they came from somewhere deep. Then I said the real boundary. I wish I'd said it at 30. I won't take on hosting alone. Either we share it, or it won't happen. The silence that followed was so heavy, it felt like even the clock started ticking louder. My husband looked at me. I looked at him. Guilt rose up in me. Did I hurt him? I wondered. But at the same time I felt relief, because for the first time I chose myself, and the thing I feared didn't happen. He didn't explode. The house didn't fall apart. People didn't abandon me. My husband grumbled a little and said, it'll be hard. And I said, if it's going to be hard, then so be it. It sounds bold now, but I meant it then, because what looked easy to everyone else was already hard for me. My life had gotten harder precisely because I'd been the easy one for so long. At the next gathering, I didn't plan the menu alone. I said, everyone bring something. Someone said, oh, why bother? You'll do it. I smiled and said, I won't. That was it. My heart shook, but my tongue didn't, because I knew now, if I don't protect myself, no one will protect me. That day I didn't go into the kitchen alone. We cleared the plates together. It sounded small, but for me it was huge, because for the first time, something I'd always called my burden was actually shared. And after that night, I made a promise to myself I would never again let a storm brew inside me just for the sake of peace. But let me tell you something. That promise wasn't one I kept overnight. I didn't instantly fix myself and say, great, I've set boundaries now. Old habits don't let go that easily, because for years I had trained myself to believe you're loved in proportion to how much you give. So I gave. I always gave. My time, my effort, my sleep. Sometimes I gave myself. When I started setting boundaries, the hardest part wasn't people's reactions. The hardest part was the guilt inside me. The first time I said no, my heart pounded like it wanted to jump out of my chest. It felt like I was doing something wrong, like someone would point at me and say, "You weren't like this before." And they did. "What happened to you?" they asked. "You've changed." And I thought to myself, yes, I've changed, because the old me was killing me. Of course, I didn't say that to their faces. I still wasn't a woman who liked to fight, but I was learning this. Being clear isn't fighting. Being clear is refusing to hide. I started small. When someone called and said, "You should handle this too," I used to say, "Okay." This time I said, "I can't right now." I used to add a long list of explanations after that. The kids, the house, I'm tired. This time, I didn't, and not explaining made me uneasy. Was that rude? I asked myself. But then I realized I had been shrinking myself for years by over-explaining, like I had no right to say no unless I had a good enough excuse. And at first, when you say no, people push back, because they're used to the old you. When you have no boundaries, they stay comfortable. When you set boundaries, their comfort gets disrupted. That's why they sometimes try to make you feel guilty. But that feeling isn't the truth. It's just an old habit talking. Every time I heard that echo, I told myself, I'm not bad, I'm just not forgetting myself. After a while, something changed. I stopped exploding as much. Before, I used to bottle everything up, let it pile up, and then burst over something tiny. You know how people say the cup overflowed? That was me. When you start setting boundaries, the cup empties before it overflows. The poison comes out. Maybe it's not a fight, but the truth finally gets air. And you know the best part? My children saw it. As my daughter grew up, she saw her mother could say no. As my son grew up, he saw that the weight of the home didn't belong only to the woman. Maybe it was late, but it was better than nothing. Let me tell you this too. Sometimes people don't hear your boundaries, so you repeat them, the same sentence, with the same calm voice. I used to think repeating myself was embarrassing. Turns out, repeating yourself is taking yourself seriously. Now I ask myself, I wish I had done this at 30. Yes, but I'm 76, and I'm still learning. I don't know how old you are, but I do know this. You can learn before I did. So my question to you is this. Today, what are you carrying just so it won't feel shameful? Look, I was crushed under that word, shame, for years. I went places so it wouldn't be shameful. I stayed quiet so it wouldn't be shameful. I smiled so it wouldn't be shameful. Then one day I realized most of what I feared as rude was really just other people staying comfortable where I had no boundaries. I learned this too late. Once a person gets used to saying, I always do it, the people around her start saying, she always does it. Then one day when you say, I'm here too, it feels like you've disrupted the order. But if that order is built on your shoulders, then it was never fair to begin with. At 76, I can see this. Setting boundaries isn't the enemy of love. Setting boundaries makes love real, because love doesn't work when one person disappears to keep the peace. Love works when both people get to stay human. Sometimes I imagine women writing to me. They say, I can't say no. My husband will be hurt. My mother will be offended. My mother-in-law will be upset. I'll look bad at work. And I think, what about you? What happens when you're hurt? Who sees it when you're offended? Who notices when you're overwhelmed? I lived that way for years. No one saw my pain. Let me tell you a secret. The hardest part of setting boundaries is saying that first sentence. After that, it slowly gets easier. Because in that first sentence, you're not only talking to other people, you're talking to yourself. You're saying, I matter. And for a woman who has lived by everyone else first for years, that's huge. I taught myself 3 things. Maybe they'll help you too. 1. Keep it short. Long explanations weaken your boundary. Now I say I can't do that. Period. 2. Don't start with an apology. I used to say, I'm sorry, but like no was a crime. I don't carry that guilt anymore. 3. Don't be embarrassed to repeat yourself. Some people don't hear you the first time. Even if they do, they don't want to understand. Stay calm. If your no hasn't changed, don't change your sentence. Now if you want, let's bring this into real life. Today, set one small boundary. Not a scary one, not a dramatic one, just a small one. For example, I can't come today. I won't take that on. I don't want to talk right now. I want to rest too. Your voice may tremble. Your heart may race. Later, alone, you might think, did I do the wrong thing? I felt that too. But then I told myself, saying no isn't wrong. What was wrong was ignoring myself for years. And during this process you'll see something else. Some people will respect you more, because clarity brings respect. Some people will get angry, because clarity doesn't benefit them. And that teaches you something, who truly loves you, and who only loves your convenience. There was no miracle in my life. I didn't wake up one day and everything was perfect. No, but something did happen. The woman inside me came back. That tired, quiet woman who managed everything. Slowly she became a woman who respected herself. I'm still kind. I still don't want to break anyone's heart. But now I know this. I can't abandon myself just to avoid upsetting someone else. So remember this from this video. Setting boundaries isn't losing people. Sometimes it just lightens the load. Sometimes it helps you find yourself again. Now here's my request. Today, write one sentence in a notebook. Just one. I will no longer carry. Fill in the blank. Pleasing everyone. Doing everything alone. Staying silent. Whatever it is. And one last thing. If you've been the easy one for years, thinking it was a virtue while giving yourself up, don't miss the next video. A 79-year-old woman shares what 40 years of being easy cost her. In this video, I just wanted to tell you this. Don't abandon yourself. No one will defend you in your place. But you can learn to defend yourself.